This is Louis Zumbaugh with Rush Hour Ag. Leave your message after the tone.
Hey Louis, it's Elliott Henderson. Can't wait to tell you about
rolling down the back road, truth riding with the dust, talking agriculture policy with people you can trust. From the field to the Capitol, we're breaking it down. Real talk, real issues from a real farm town. Every hour's rush hour when the work won't leave, so we're cutting through the noise and setting things straight.
What's your rush today, Elliott? Welcome back to Rush Hour Ag. I'm Louis Zumbaugh, and today we got Elliott Henderson here as normal with us. And what's your rush today, Elliott?
Well, Louis, I spent the day down here in Des Moines with Iowa Corn, and we were on the Capitol yesterday. How about you? What's your rush been today?
Oh, my rush it's a rush every day, and it changes every day, so you know. But today it was a rush to get here to the beautiful Farm for Profit studio to do another episode of Rush Hour Ag and to talk about the things that are going on in politics.
Yeah, I'm excited for Rush Hour Ag. I mean, I think this is going to be something really cool that we're going to do. We got a lot of people that don't really understand policy and how government works and how it's affecting their day-to-day.
Sure. I hope you're right, and I think it will be exciting, and I think it's be something different. But for today, though, we're going to get to know you and what's going on. And so let's start out with your family.
Yeah, I'm from Independence, and we've got my wife and I. We got 5 beautiful, healthy young children, ages from 13 all the way down to 5. But it's been kind of a weird story. So I was in the military before I got back into my farming career, and I needed like the complete opposite of combat. So I decided I wanted to come back for my 2 weeks leave and go to Disney World. And my sister had this friend who I decided I'd spend the week with while we were back. And we went to Disney World together and hung out for 2 weeks. And then when I got back to Afghanistan, a few months later, I got this call that I was going to be a dad. So
Really?
Lucky enough, I came back home, and we've had 4 more after that, and it's just been a wild ride. So I've been super blessed. She's been a partner in my our business adventures and our farming operation, and so it's just something that I'm just probably the most proudest thing in my life.
Yeah, no, I've met your family at different Iowa corn events and then out the farm when you guys are spraying for us. So yeah, you got a great family and a great wife and kids. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you.
Thank you, Louis.
You know, let's hit on your upbringing and your childhood if you want, or what you want to share with us.
So, I mean, as far back as I can remember, a farmer is all I ever wanted to be. You know, my dad farmed. I don't even know how many as far back as I can look in the Henderson family, we've been farmers. And I think dairymen all the way up until maybe my dad's generation. But in fact, I think some of our family history is not too far away down in Lynn County. So, I think they came through Canada and then settled there in Lynn County. And would there be some Hendersons maybe 2-3 miles from you?
We have Hendersons 2 or 3 miles from me, and I didn't really think about this till right now, but I actually have nieces and nephews that are Hendersons, related shirt tail to the Hendersons that you're talking about that live by Coggin.
I'm sure they are. Yeah.
So, if you take everything back far enough, we're probably all related somehow.
Yeah, so there's some Pauls, it was a Paul farm that would have been on my grandmother's side that's just down there by Wabeek, which is maybe, how far is Wabeek from you guys?
Oh, probably 10 miles maybe.
Yeah,
Yep.
Not far at all. So my upbringing was always farming, and that's all I've ever wanted to do was farm. I mean, I can remember Ertl tractors was all I cared about. I remember as a young kid, we lived in like a single wide trailer on a farm, during the 80s when we had corn stuffed everywhere. And I think I remember stories about the reason that my mom was just so desperate to move out of the house is that all the mice and rats from the corn piles were like chewing on my baby brother in the crib or something. I don't know. But I mean, I remember taking my dad's tools out of the shop. And
this is kind of a personal question.
Yeah.
Did you have to walk uphill both ways to school?
No, well, I remember one summer, maybe 2 summers, my folks had a deal done where they were going to buy this farm out in the country, not far from the home farm, like right across the street, actually. And anyways, they decided they didn't want to sell it after my folks had sold their house. So we ended up living in like my folks stayed in like a fifth wheel camper.
Yep.
And then we remodeled this old garage. I'm not kidding. It had to been like 1940s. I mean, it was like a garage where it was like the first garage that somebody would have built for a Model T. It was old, maybe a little newer than a Model T, but old. And we called it the bunkhouse. And we had, we tore down old barns, put barn boards up, and me and my three brothers lived in that garage. And yeah, we had to walk across gravel to go to the bathroom and take a shower, and the laundry was over in the shop. But it was fun when we were kids,
Sure,
so,
sure.
but yeah, it wasn't.
It's like
it did get
camping every
cold.
day.
It did get cold. I remember it got so cold that we had to go and stay in the camper with mom and dad, and that's when my mom said she'd had enough again, and we did something different.
Cool.
But yeah, as a kid, that's all I ever wanted to do was farm. And when I got to, went to school, grew up, graduate high school, and all I wanted to do was farm. But my dad said I had to go to college.
Okay. What'd you go to college for?
I went to agribusiness.
Okay.
And
Where at?
I went to school at Kirkwood. Got
Okay.
a couple degrees at Kirkwood, business management, agribusiness. Then I went to UNI, and then when I was at UNI, I was living back at home and
Sure.
starting to farm, and I had cattle and livestock of my own, but I really didn't have any row crop, and that's really all I've ever wanted to do is row crop. Seems like my life has been an endless do everything else so you can try to do row crop farming, and I guess that's still my struggle today. But at that time, having these conversations with my dad about coming back to the farm, and he just wasn't ready yet. And heck, my dad was pretty young, at that time. He was probably in his early 50s or something. There wasn't room for me to come back. So I remember, I think we were probably going somewhere in a pickup to go pick up planter parts or something. I mean, I just remember I spent all my time with my dad. I was just always in the cab with him. I mean, anywhere that he went, he took me with him. And I still remember like pulling over the side of the road and just having that like heart-to-heart conversation with him about, I'd like to serve our country. 9/11 had happened kind
Sure.
of about that time. I'm a 2000, I was a senior in high school when the World Trade Centers got hit. And I
Okay.
can still remember being in Mr. Putz's, I don't know, speech class or something, whatever it was, and knowing that like the world had changed. And I knew I wanted to farm. And even like going to school at Kirkwood, I loved it. I was passionate about it. But like the media was big about, if you can remember that time, we're going into Iraq, Afghanistan's kicked off. And I did feel like there was something else calling me.
So what branch did you join?
So I joined the Army.
Okay.
And I was very lucky because we have infantry units here in Iowa. And so I joined the Iowa National Guard.
Okay.
And like, I must have just been born at the right time in the right place that I could have a passion for agriculture and be able to serve our country in the capacity that I desired to, because probably one of the same classrooms where I was watching the World Trade Centers get planes flown into them. I remember reading Black Hawk Down, and I thought, I could do that. That's sounds like something I'd love to do. Go become a ranger, become an officer, see combat. It's kind of a coming of age thing. I think all young men probably crave some type of ambition like that at some point in their lives, and I was able to do it. I guess I was born at the right time to do that, and I enlisted. Was a buck private when I went in.
Yep.
I showed good potential, and I was always promoted to advance. In fact, I had enough college. They sent me to officer school, became an officer, went to ranger school, went to Afghanistan. I was on the Pakistani border when they shot bin Laden. The Khyber Pass, where Alexander the Great conquered Asia. So it's like kind of a really neat deployment, and
Came back and came back in good shape. That's not everybody did that, so
yeah.
that's good that you have. So you decide to go to Disneyland.
Yep.
You end up going to Disneyland with your future wife.
Yep.
Have great kids, and I know that you've got this business experience. And I've known you for a number of years on different levels, but I know then a couple things fascinate me. You got an event planning business, or an event center business.
So I actually bought that event center as a I've been doing commercial snow removal. I
Okay.
still do commercial snow removal
Okay.
to this day. And, you know, operating out of the family farm, my dad was really like, you know, you need to do this somewhere else, not here. And so I bought that property in town there. And Monsanto was also going to come to town and build a big seed corn facility
Yeah, I
there.
remember that.
And this building, this event center building, had a fire in it. So we took that building, had no running water, no electricity. It was a salvage building essentially, and rebuilt it based from the storm damage, put
Sure.
new rafters in it, reinforced it, and had some friends of mine get together because I knew I was going to be deploying. And so, like at this time, you know, it's making some major life decisions in my 20s that I might not ever come back home to see this stuff again. So, you know, I sold
Sure.
my, like the story of your father selling
Yep.
his cattle herd before he deployed. You know, I had experienced that same thing. I also put that event center back into the condition where if something ever happened to me, my folks could just sell it as an event center.
Okay.
But I really bought it to get into like the custom seed corn harvesting business because Monsanto was going to be right there.
Right.
This is like the time that Monsanto was looking at really going gangbuster on producing more seed corn. Well, they ended up not producing more, but probably just raising the price instead. So that event center was there when I came back home, and my wife has been an awesome partner. She ran that event center for 10 years, and we ended up selling that event center to a church right before COVID. So I'll tell you all about divine intervention.
Divine intervention.
Divine intervention. If you don't believe in divine intervention and you're running an event center hall and COVID coming down the road, somebody's looking out for you
Yeah.
if you want to sell an event center before a pandemic.
I'm a big believer in divine intervention. In fact, when I remember a seed corn salesman coming to our farm once and was trying to sell me some stuff, and I've always told him I'm a faith-based operation. If you don't believe me, look at my knees, because your pants get wore out when you're on your knees.
Praying all the time,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So or working on the cement floor, but I didn't put that part in there. But I am a big believer in the divine intervention. So you've had a pretty good, successful career when you got started. And then another thing that always fascinates me, I'm going to go one at a time. Might not be in the right order, but you got in the, so you get out of you're still in the snow moving
Yep,
business,
still
but you're not in the event business, but you bought a sod farm. Or
Yes,
actually,
we
you
did.
bought 2 sod farms.
Yes, we did.
And that's kind of exciting. I mean, it's agriculture. It's
is.
still farming, but not everybody just decides they're going to run a sod farm. But you have a sod farm that's out
We have-
west of Independence
Yep, we have
Ways.
one it's in Cedar Falls, actually.
Okay.
Right by Cedar Falls. And we were exiting the event center business, and we just want to farm. That's all we really wanted to
Yep.
do is farm. So it was an opportunity where we could stop doing one thing and just focus on what our passion is. You're meeting with realtors, and you're trying to find a good bargain. And I've shared some stories about when I was in the service. I lived in Georgia, and so when I was in Georgia, you know, everything was irrigated down there.
Sure.
And, you know, I've got friends that have broken world records with irrigated crops in Georgia. And I thought, you know, gosh, I can't move to Georgia. Maybe I can get an irrigated farm. And so the sod farm was not something I really wanted to do, was grow sod, but the realtor's like, hey, this farm, you know, it's right up your alley with all this other different stuff you're doing. You know, you really should buy this farm. I'm thinking, that's not what we want to do. So we were getting down to kind of the time where we needed to be making a decision on what we were going to do. And so we did. My wife and I, we went and met with this. It was an older couple. They didn't have any children that wanted to continue the operation. It was like such a bad vibe. They didn't want anything to do with us. What do you guys want to do this for? This is terrible. No, you don't want to do this. And so we kind of took our foot off the gas, and we put an offer in. It was not accepted. And we went about looking for another opportunity. And as time got closer and closer to where we made a decision, like, let's put another offer in, and we'll go back and, you know, kind of sell ourselves a little bit on, you know, why we think this is a good fit
Sure.
for us. We did that, went back, they accepted our offer, and they have been the sweetest people to us ever since. I mean, they're like a second family. They've been so welcoming, and
And you probably need that because you probably didn't have a lot of sod experience
No, we didn't have a lot of
other
sod
than
experience.
probably being a professional lawnmower like I am at home. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and I'm not a big fan of mowing lawns. I grew up mowing lawn for my family and grandparents all my life, so I really wasn't excited about mowing, but it's all right.
And so do you manage the sod farm yourself?
So my wife really does a lot of the sod business.
Okay.
I mean, I still love the row crop, but
Yeah.
I'll do the agronomy on the sod farm, and I'll cut sod and load sod and haul sod.
Okay.
But I don't mind working for her.
All right. So
Pretty good to look at.
she's a lot better to look at than you are.
That's one thing I'm sure.
So then I know another thing that you got into was you bought the grain elevator in Jessup.
Yes, we bought a failed grain elevator in Jessup.
Yep.
Yep, it was actually the one that played a big role in taking down the indemnity fund.
Really?
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yep.
I do have a little bit of history there at the former grain elevator. They had a store. I believe they sold Purina feeds and
Yes.
some tack, and my kids are some of them are into horses and that type of thing. And I remember I don't remember what we were specifically shopping for, but we were my two oldest daughters and I were on a quest to get something at a Western store. I don't remember what. I know we ended up in Waterloo, and that's back when Rancheros was still there, and Silver Dollar,
Silver Spur.
Silver Spur, yeah, and it's still there. But anyhow, we stopped at the Western store there.
Talk to them about maybe being a sponsor or something.
Well, yeah, we could. But the thing I remember most was they had some kind of designer blue jeans, and I don't spend money on that kind of stuff, but they were really on sale, that they were odd sizes. And my second daughter found a size that fit her, and my oldest daughter didn't think that was very cool that I let her buy these jeans that were probably $80 jeans, but they're on the $10 rack. And I wasn't the cool dad. I was the really cool dad with one of them and not the other one. But I do remember. I don't remember the name of that store, but
Yeah.
you probably shouldn't put that out
Yeah.
there. But
You could,
but,
yeah.
but
it's
you do have
awesome
you have the
store.
office part and that part for sale yet.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
right.
So it was a great opportunity to buy that. Our little operation, my wife and I's, we didn't have a grain facility, so we were taking our grain to town. And if there's an opportunity that you can process your own grain, there's an opportunity to build some capital and build some equity. So we seen that, and we've been selling off, some of the other structures there, and we want to get to like a zero cost basis on the property.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a great opportunity.
So that gets us, kind of full circle and kind of knowing what you're all about there. But why don't you bring us into your political aspirations, or well, maybe we should start with the involvement in associations that you've had over
Sure.
the years,
Yeah.
and then we'll circle back around to political.
So I've had some friends in the Iowa Corn Growers Association that have. Well, I'll back up even further. I remember, like, even as a kid, my dad was pretty involved in the Iowa Corn Growers Association. I think he was maybe a director for a few years, and that was something I always aspired to do. And so I had some friends that were pretty active, and they got me involved at the county level.
Okay.
And so for a couple of years, probably 3 or 4 years, I participated and helped the county run their county association, and I'm still involved in our county association. But Mark Mueller, who is from Bremer County, was going to go up to the executive committee, and his spot came open. So I ran and won, and I've been going to these meetings in Des Moines ever since.
Sure.
It takes a lot more time than what I thought it was going to, but it's been very rewarding, and I'm really passionate, about agriculture and this policy. So I do feel like I'm in the right place, and that Iowa corn, I mean, there's just something really special about it. The staff, they're professional. They get things done, and the people that are farmers that are representing the growers from their districts, they are smart people. They understand the issues, and they understand the importance of taking care of these issues today.
Sure. And I think the other thing is in their tagline, or one of their taglines for Iowa corn is corn grows Iowa. And whether you realize that or not, that is definitely a fact. Cedar Rapids is the corn milling capital of the world. And it really doesn't matter what walk of life you're in Iowa. You are probably somehow affected by Iowa Corn. Not necessarily the organization, but by physically Iowa Corn is somehow affecting your business.
Yeah, but like think about that organization, what they've done for ethanol in the past 20 or
Sure.
30 years. Like every day, the wealth of this state was built on the efforts of people 30 or 40 years ago that saw a need to advance these products, promote these products, and continue to develop the demand and the grind for corn here. And I think you can reflect and look at like the value of property here and see how it's appreciated. Without those efforts, we wouldn't have the wealth that we have in the state today.
Right there, but yeah, and I'm talking about, though, not only that, the person that thinks they're 3 generations removed from the farm, have nothing to do with farming, probably is affected by Iowa Corn, the actual product somehow in their life, whether it's where they work or what they're wearing or what they're
Yeah.
filling their car up
Yeah,
with.
even though they might think
Uh,
that the milk's made in the grocery store, they're
Yeah,
affected
yeah,
by
definitely,
corn.
definitely. So how's that circle around to any political aspirations or rush hour ag specifically?
Yes, well, like you were involved as a county supervisor. I ran for county supervisor pretty young, didn't win. Ran for state senate, didn't win. That's all right. I was fine. I'm pretty damn fortunate that I didn't, I think, because I wouldn't have had the opportunities to do the other things I've done. But I've been pretty ambitious as far as the political world and, identifying good policies and bad policies. And, for folks that don't understand, what we mean by policy, these are the things that are put into law or programs that we have in place that affect their everyday life, just what you were talking about.
Sure.
But I've always had a really strong desire and will to understand what these policies do and how they affect us.
Sure. I know we've talked about other episodes how you and I met, which was probably first in my farm shop while Jared was preparing your planter with precision equipment so you could be a better farmer. Not that you weren't a good farmer
No,
before,
I'm definitely a better farmer
but
now.
and then when I was in the house, you brought a lot of ideas, and I really, you're really one of them people in my view that you throw a lot of mud at the wall, and if you want anything to stick, generally you have to throw a lot, and then what sticks can maybe become a good policy, a good law, a good ordinance, however it boils down to. And I really think you have thrown some mud that really intrigued me, especially lately, that really interested me. And this whole idea of doing a podcast is probably pretty fresh to us, pretty new to us. But I'm excited to be doing that and doing it with you, Elliott. And the reason I think that we're probably a good team is we don't always agree, but we always agree to disagree in a nice manner.
Well, the differences in agriculture, not just, me and you, but, even both sides of the aisle or both sides of the state, we're more alike than we are different.
Sure.
And people in agriculture, I think, identify that pretty quickly, and they're quick to come to a solution. But I would like to share, I was come down, we're in Slater, we're at the Farm for Profit Studios. These guys interviewed me a month or more ago, and I can remember talking with Corey about, and Corey's, you need to get more involved. You need to be telling this story more, and you need to be doing a podcast. And I thought, man, I don't know if I'm really like the influencer type, and then I talked to Rachel, your daughter, who works for Farm for Profit, and I said, hey, who would be a good co-host to work with? Well, she didn't suggest you, but a few days later, you had called me. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Lou would be perfect.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So in a nutshell, we wouldn't be here without Rachel.
That's right.
Well, we'll find out whether that's good or bad, I
We
guess, in the
certainly
end.
will.
But I certainly hope that our podcast is not only entertaining, but I hope people gain knowledge from it. And, I don't expect everybody to agree with what we think is great policy or what you would think or I think of great policy, but I hope that they do get engaged. And I don't know about you, but I know that I'm one that in my political career, I've always been a no. When somebody from staff would come from the county, and at first it was kind of hard for them to deal with it, but I was always a no.
I could see that.
And I'm always a no for a simple reason, but I'm willing to change my mind, but you have to talk me into it.
Hmm.
And the reason I do it that way is because it's a lot easier for me to tell you no and then to change my mind and you're happy with me. But if I tell you yes right off the bat, and then I find out for some reason that, yeah, I can't do that, then all of a sudden our relationship is stained. And so I've always been a no to start with. I know I've told you no on a lot of ideas, and it just happened that you hit one that is really affecting uh, Deb's and my uh, stage in life and looking at retirement and looking at how to pass the farm down. You happened to throw some mud on the wall that really hit that really got me thinking. And then with Rachel being in this business and whatnot, has brought us together, whether that's divine intervention or not, I don't know.
Well, I think
But
this will be like one of the things that's really cool about this is like this type of conversation and like that input. And it's like that, what you just shared, like I know I'll remember that forever. And I think our listeners will hear that kind of discussion between us and think, man, those are life lessons that, it's nice to learn those things. So I think this will be the kind of place where they're going to get a lot of insight.
I hope you're right, and I hope people continue to join in and watch and listen to our podcast. And you have anything else to add for the time?
I don't know. It's going to be a rush.
It's going to be a rush. Well, that kind of concludes our podcast for today. But I hope you rush back to watch the next one. Thank you.